Hi, welcome to Monday Night Chat episode 157. Today we have three segments. The first segment is we're going to have a conversation with two young persons. They are from UKEC. Yeah, it's Mr. Said Rifki and also Miss Lee CJ. Yeah, that program is called Let's Listen. And then we're going to move on to the hot topic, and this is the hot topic of the week, which is on the bicycle lajak car accident case, where we will be trying to give a rational position on this and appeal to people not to racialize the issue. And then very lastly, we're going to have a Q&A session. Yeah. So, Sai is here and also Lee is here. Miss Lee is here. Yeah. But before we start, let's have that transition thing called Let's Listen. Okay, guys, welcome to the show. How are you guys doing? Good?
Doing well, YB.
Okay, Sai, where are you now? Where are you exactly? You are in where? We can't really hear you. Your line is kind of. Wait, are you in the UK or are you in Malaysia? UK. Yeah? And
Yeah.
CJ, where are you, CJ?
I'm in Manchester, also UK.
Manchester, okay. So, Sai, you are at Bristol, right? Studying law. Okay, good. We hope your line gets a bit better. Yeah. So there's an instruction from Dashini that maybe Sai, you want to consider changing your headphones or something. So in the meantime, let's carry on with CJ first. Okay, CJ, where exactly are you from? Which part of Malaysia are you from?
I'm from Penang.
You're from Penang. Okay.
Yes.
And what are you studying in Manchester?
I'm currently a first year studying politics, philosophy, and economics.
Okay, the PPE. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Which part of the PPE are you enjoying? Are you enjoying the politics, philosophy, or the economic side?
I think there are three equally interesting concentrations to study, but I definitely am biased towards politics because it's really interesting to learn more about Western views of politics in general. I'd say economics is a close second though.
Economics is a close second, but the
Yeah.
philosophy is not your thing.
Philosophy, I'm mainly interested in ethics, which I don't get to study until year 2. So I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Okay. That's good. Okay. Now, you're at the UKEC, right? Correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
And what is your position in UKEC?
So I am the vice chairperson elect for UKE Catalyst for the next tenure, so 2022 to 23.
2022 to 2023. Okay, Sai, you're back. Can we see
Right.
whether your lines are clear? Is it clear?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, excellent. Well
Right,
done.
brilliant.
Okay. So, Sai, can you explain a little bit about yourself? Where are you from?
Well, I grew up in I was born in Selangor, grew up in Kelantan, and currently live in KL.
You grew up in Kelantan, like me lah. I was born in Selangor also. Born in
I
Selangor,
grew up
in
near
Kelantan.
HUSM in Kemangkarian.
Oh, what were your parents doing there? What were you doing in Kelantan?
My dad was working in Kelantan, so I just had my primary school years in Kelantan.
Interesting. Okay, I mean, we have the same experience, brother. So you speak Kelantanese, lah? Kecek Kelantan.
I understand better than I can speak.
Okay. I'm not gonna put you on the spot. So you're studying law at Bristol, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay. So what is your position at UKEC?
I will be heading the organization over the next tenure. So for
Okay,
the year
so
2023.
So I'm talking to the chairperson and also the vice chair. Is that?
Yeah.
The number
exactly.
1 and number 2.
Yeah, that works that way.
Okay, great. Now I'm gonna ask questions, and you guys feel free to jump in anytime you want. But maybe it's right to ask Sai first, lah. Yeah. So my first question to Sai is: can you just explain to us what is UKEC? What does it stand for, and what activities do you do in UKEC?
So the UKEC is essentially a United Kingdom Council for Malaysian an air council for Malaysian students in the UK and Ireland. So we are a formal body that is that represents all the Malaysian societies in the UK. So we have about 77, and the number is constantly growing of Malaysian societies in the UK. University societies, and every single year twice a year we come together, all the Malaysian societies come together, and we choose leaders to lead us throughout the year, which will be under the UKEC. So the UKEC serves as an umbrella body for all these Malaysian societies, and the work that we do focus on which CJ, what CJ does, for example, is we promote intellectual discourse. We talk about difficult things, about controversial topics, and we do it over 4 flagship events. So we have the Malaysian Student Leaders Summit coming up in August. We've had Project Amanat Negara, which is also a student conference, which is done in the UK every single year. We have the Career Fair, the Malaysian Career Fair with our partner Graduan, which has about 40 Malaysian companies come over to the UK, and we try to bring back the brightest minds to go back to Malaysia. And we get about we used to get about 6,000 CVs coming in. So those are the main things that we do.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. Okay, let me ask CJ, right? CJ, how many members are currently in UKEC? And also, where do you get your funding from? Do you get funding from the Malaysian government or raise yourself, or how does it happen?
We currently have around like 53 members in UKC. 53. There are a couple of offices in the structure of UKC itself. So there's the chair's office from where Syed Rifki is from. I'm from the Catalyst office. Then we have careers, cares, and also connect. So you see they all end with C. So it's like UKE, then that. So it's a fun play on words. Yeah, so it's a large office, and we all try to work with each other to host all the flagship events and things. As for funding, I think Syed would be better suited to answer that question than me.
Okay, yeah, Syed, how do you get your funds from? Yeah.
Okay, so YB, we are a non-partisan organization. That's not to say that we're not political. We do take political stances. We do believe in. We do have opinions on things. However, because of the nature of not being partisan, we don't take any funding from the government. All of our funding comes from corporate sectors. Our most loyal sponsors who have been with us throughout the years have been CIMB and PwC. Over the years, it's also been Maxis and also RHB. We have a strategic partner in ICAEW. So those are our main sponsors that help us out throughout the years.
Well, that's good. That's really good. That's the right way to go, right? I mean, in some ways, it's important that you all survive on corporate sponsorship, but then you have to then try to balance it with more social work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, excellent. Now let's start the formal questions. Joining me is Dashini, right? So let me ask the very first one, and both of you can take your turn to answer. What led you, both of you, to student activism? Because this UKEC is student activism, right? Yeah. So what led you, or what's your personal story behind this? Maybe CJ first. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think it's fairly simple, and I believe a lot of youths in Malaysia can resonate with my answer, which is that I grew up knowing that there are a lot of important conversations that should have been brought up within my community, at home, at school. But the fact is they're not being brought up. At school, we're discouraged from talking about issues other than what we're actually learning. They don't talk about controversial issues, don't discuss what you see in the news. It's irrelevant to what you're currently pursuing in class. And I won't go into all the issues that I think are important, because then we'd probably be here all night. But I knew that someone had to ignite those sparks of conversations, and I didn't want to sit around and just wait around for that someone. So, it's like, despite adults saying that, oh, you're so young, you don't really understand politics, you don't know what's really going on with all these issues, I decided to just go ahead and do my own research anyways, because, we have the internet now, so information is readily available and accessible. Did that, and then tried to have as much conversations as I can with my friends or whoever else was willing to listen. Yeah, so I think a lot of this can reverberate with other youths in Malaysia. We're just tired of waiting around for change that isn't guaranteed. So just step up, take things into our own hands, so to speak.
That's very good. That is an excellent answer. How about you, Sai? What is your motivation? What drives you?
Yeah, my answer is very different from CJ's actually. The CJ is about herself, but she takes the initiative herself. For me, it was mostly influence from my family. See, my grandparents of my grandfather from my dad's side was in the military. His son was in the military. My grandparents on my mom's side was very active with political activism. So growing up, I had the privilege of growing in a household that was very politically aware. So it was not much of a choice, whereby you had to know these issues. We would, when we sit together for dinner, YB, we have a TV on. We watch TV3, Bulletin TV3 every single night. So it was things like that, whereby at the dinner table, conversations would be about issues that exist currently. So at a young age, I felt like it wasn't much of a choice. But as you grow older, I tend to appreciate that I didn't have that choice, because this is something that I'm passionate about, I like, and I enjoy doing.
Okay, that is an equally great answer. I have very young kids, right? I mean, my daughter is 9 and my son is 10 going 11. And we do have political meetings in the house. So we have ambassadors over and they'll talk about global issues and whatever. And they've been sitting there since like 4 years old. They're listening, absorbing all these things. But I'm not sure exactly whether my son or my daughter is interested in politics, because most of the time, maybe they're too young, but I can appreciate what you went through, because occasionally my son will talk about global issues at the age of 10, like the Ukraine war. And then more strangely is my daughter seems to have a natural flair like a politician in greeting people. So that's interesting. Okay, let's enough about my family. Darshini, you have a question to ask them?
Yes, I do, because I'm very interested in the work that UKEC does to improve access to employability and improving access to employment. So I think something really great that you guys have is your CV drive. You have a interview guide. You have guides for essentially everything that someone would have to face in order to get employment, right? So how have your personal experiences shaped your perspective on access to education and employability in Malaysia? I'm sure that also has to do with your employment in UKEC. So Syed or CJ, any one of you can go first. Maybe Syed, because CJ went first.
All right. Thank you, Darshini, for the question. Again, one of the main goals of the UKEC is to tackle brain drain. We want to bring back Malaysian talents back home. And obviously, to understand the issue, to be aware of the issue, you have to realize that you must have personal experiences that affect your understanding on it. I spoke to CJ about this yesterday, and we talked about how accessibility to education is, especially in Malaysian high school. And it's interesting because I went to a public school and CJ went to CJ did IGCSEs. So for myself, when I was the first batch that went through PT3. We always argued that we were the guinea pigs. We went
Guinea
through
pigs,
all sorts of issues. And after I was done with PT3, my school, my teachers decided, okay, you know what, you're gonna do all the sciences. You're gonna do biology, chemistry, physics, which is something that I was not adamant for. I had always been adamant on the idea of doing humanities subjects after I was done with school. So I wanted to do economics. I wanted to do additional mathematics. Some part of me wanted to do Tasawwur Islam for some reason, but those were the subjects I wanted to do, and it was a very difficult transition because the teachers were not adamant on it. They have the stigma whereby if you are not doing the sciences, it is because you're not smart enough to do the sciences, and it becomes a problem because not only does it prevent people from actually wanting to do what they want to do, but it also hugely diminishes the confidence of students who don't do the sciences. You start questioning whether are you actually smart? Are you actually able to make it in life? So those are the issues that when it comes to accessibility that truly I resonate with. Also, when I was done with high school, the accessibility to education suddenly becomes very clear. Like some people have these opportunities, some people don't. And I went to a very diverse school. My school was very diverse, which was a great opportunity for me, which I truly appreciate. And when I graduated high school, I realized that I can apply for this scholarship. But my friend Kabilin couldn't. When I applied to UPU, I could get my first choice. Kabilan didn't. So it was something that it affects you, because at some point you feel embarrassed about it. You start questioning, do you get it because of certain things, or do you actually deserve it? So
I'm
those
sure
are
you question your own merits as a result of the system
yeah,
itself.
exactly. So definitely that was with regards to accessibility to education, and those were the reasons why I felt like things have got to change. Yeah, so I'm going to pass it over to CJ and see her experiences to see the contrast here.
Okay. So I largely agree with what Said said. So I studied abroad in US for a year during high school, and I was really fortunate enough to have that experience because I got to see how their education system functions, and it's drastically different from what we have here in Malaysia. Students there, they aren't confined to choosing either science or art stream. Like right here in high school, at least for mine, in Form 3, you're already forced to choose, like, okay, do you want to go into full science or full arts? We weren't given the chance to explore both sides and really figure out what exactly we like. We're just given two choices and you have to make one. And I think that we should definitely open up that gateway towards having our students explore more, like a variety of subjects, because then you can figure out what you're passionate in and what you're going to eventually pursue in college and university. For example, I pursued science. I was in science stream back in high school. I went to a Chinese independent private school, and right now I'm not doing anything related to science. It was after high school that I realized through my own research and just wandering around with other people, having conversations, that I was like, okay, I'm actually more interested in the humanities side than science. So um, you could say somewhat I felt like I wasn't on the same starting line as everyone else doing my course because I spent so many years doing science instead when I could have delved into economics and politics a lot earlier. So I just think that Malaysia's education system doesn't offer that kind of flexibility that our students need in today's day and age. No matter if you're looking at SPM or IGCSE or some other kind of syllabus. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Said, you wanna tackle the employability part?
This one is very complicated because in the UKC, one of our main works, one of the works that we're truly proud of our partner, Graduan, is that we have the Malaysian Career Fair, whereby, as I mentioned earlier, we try to bring back Malaysian talents. We have about 40 Malaysian companies come over every single year, and we're looking at finally a physical one in my tenure, and it's something that we're excited about. But when we talk about employability in Malaysia, one of the main reasons why some of us don't want to go back is because, first of all, obviously the pay. People say, money is not always the issue, but I once spoke with a person and he said, patriotism is very important, but patriotism is not going to feed my family. So it was a very valid point. And I remember, for example, like my first working experience, it was during, I was 16. It was December. So we had our school break and it was the four of us. It was myself, it was Chloe, Ruben, and this my friend called Nazran. So the four of us worked at Bruce Juice in Kiara. And YB, my pay at the time was $5.50. It's not great, $5.50.
Yeah.
So I would go over for lunch. I would go over to the mamak to eat lunch, and I would look at my lunch. This is 11 ringgit.
Yep.
This is 2 hours of me working. So it will be obviously one of the main issues with employability in Malaysia is obviously the problem of people not wanting to go back because of the pay.
It's
Some
always
also
the pay side. It's always
Yeah,
the
it's always
pay.
the pay.
It's 90%. If they tell you they're leaving the country because of democracy, most of them are lying to you. It's the pay.
It's
Yeah,
obviously-
please continue. Yeah.
because it's actually it's always the pay, and I can understand. I don't think that I feel that in a Malaysia that allows for people to thrive, we should be able to ensure that people can live the life that they want. And I think a sad fact at the moment is that Malaysia is unable to provide that. So we have to tackle that issue, and the issue is obviously with regards to minimum wage? Are we going to push it up? So the argument is that, oh, if we raise minimum wage, then we're going to lose our ability to provide cheap labor. But then the argument is, until when are we going to provide cheap labor? Until when are we going to rely on cheap labor? When are we going to start talking about having innovative people lead the industry? So there's a lot of young Malaysians, not just abroad, not just in the UK, not just in the US or Australia, but even in Malaysia itself. When are we going to allow people who are truly innovative to lead the industry, to have, why can't we have our own Silicon Valley? We should be pushing for that instead of talking about our cheap labor, which is...
absolutely. Yeah. So the issue about labor, I mean, we can talk for another hour on this issue, but generally there are a few basic policy we must pursue. The first one is, of course, the education system needs to revamp, and you too correctly pointed out that you shouldn't stream people too early. I went through the IB system. IB, you have to do both science and humanities, for the A levels. Then we can choose whatever you want, right? You can't be decided 12, about 14 or 15 years old. That's crazy. You should be 16, 17, 18 to decide. But let's put that aside. But even the employability issue is wages. Everybody works for wages. And I don't blame people who want to earn British pound or Singapore dollars. I don't. I mean, they're there to survive. They've spent money. They have to recoup the money back. We understand. But if we don't change the foreign policy, the foreign workers policy, and we don't give tax breaks for greater investment productivity, machines, training, or that, and we don't do all those things correctly, then we will continually and perpetually be paying low wages, right? And that suppresses Malaysian capacity to earn. And if a bulk of the Malaysian, the B40 cannot earn, then you got social issues, then you don't have enough social safety net and so on and so forth. And their children are going to be underperforming as well. So this becomes a vicious cycle. But anyway, let's move on to the next topic. But you too, if you ever in KL, and you want to intern with me, come, we will explore this more thoroughly. Yeah? Okay? But the third question I want to ask you is, do you think MPs like myself, do we understand your generation? What are the feelings of the youth are they being met by politicians like myself or other politicians out there? Are we speaking your language and understanding your issue? Yeah.
I guess
let's start CJ lah. Let's start CJ. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that if you ask any Malaysian youth the first part of the question, the instinctual response would just be no. That I was talking to the side about this yesterday, and that was both our answers. But once we've both had more time to think about the question, it was more of, we know that some of our elected representatives are trying to meet our needs, trying to engage with our generation, but the progress is so slow that we aren't able to see any. So it translates into no progress, if that makes sense. And
yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of elected representatives are definitely they have cracked the code that social media or generally just the internet is the best way to engage with students in my generation. However, when it comes to answering the part of YB's question about the engagement being meaningful or not, that's a little bit tricky. Because I think Malaysian issues and just news in general are conveyed in such a way that is inaccessible, in the sense that majority of us might not be familiar in the manner and the language through which those politics are discussed. And sometimes those discussions or news that we read and listen to tend to take such a roundabout approach that they don't actually answer the questions that we might have. So we don't end up understanding those fundamental issues. And I believe that a lot of youths, a lot of elected representatives are giving youths the platform to speak what they believe in and advocate for the causes that they feel strongly about. And the elected representatives are listening. But whether or not they do something after listening to our generation speak is a whole other matter. So I'd say that elected representatives are definitely on the right track toward engaging with our generation, but there is still a lot of work to be done.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I feel the same, but I'll give an answer later. But let's hear from Syed first.
When it comes to whether we are able to engage meaningfully, one thing that I feel is great is your Monday night chat, when you bring in young people to listen, to speak. I think that the platform is very important. The platform is very important. And that's one of the things that we try to do in UKEC as well. That's why we have a Project Amanat Negara, whereby we bring speakers over from home to speak about issues that matter. That's why we have the Malaysian Student Leaders Summit. So I feel having the platform is very important for us to engage. One of the things that the previous administration might have done well was with TN50, which I felt was something that was very interesting. A lot of young people try to engage with that. And I think any administration that comes in soon should consider something similar, should have a platform for young people to talk, young people to engage with. And nowadays, as CJ mentioned, social media is one way that you go about it. I don't remember what I read in a book that was that Barack Obama cracked the code very early on with Twitter when he ran for the US presidency, and that worked. We see it today with many young Malaysian politicians who are cracking the code of TikTok. So social media, I think with the world that's constantly changing, you need to use these platforms, however you feel that some people might say it's cringy, some people might feel that it's very odd and the adaptability it's not there, but moving forward is something that definitely matters a lot to the young people and is the best way to engage with them. But the problem again is that who exactly are we engaging with? Because then the demographic becomes a bit smaller, because not everybody in Malaysia has accessibility to internet connection. Not everybody has TikTok. Not everybody has the ability to wake up in the morning and have the news at the tip of your finger. So the demographic, there's no blanket answer to how do we engage with them. When it comes to young Malaysians who don't have accessibility to education, to internet connection, then that becomes a different answer.
Yeah, great. I mean, yeah. So to me, I mean, I personally have not mastered TikTok. I'm 54, the fact that you guys are here is because I have very young officers and interns. My only way of giving back to the youth is really to hire as many as I can or offer internships to people. Then we can really sit down and spend more time to explain how do we tackle policies that affect the youth. But it's very difficult for me to summarize this in two sentences. But I will summarize one issue. When I was young, when I was 18 to say 25, coming back to Malaysia from the UK, having an international education and all that was easy. The pay wasn't great, but it was better than what you guys are getting. I could buy my first car at 22 years old. I could buy a first house at 28. The reason why there's restlessness in youth around the world is the fact that you can't do it. Not anymore. Your opportunities, which is what I had in the early 1990s, is far superior than yours. And that has everything to do with inequality. Yeah. It has also to do with, ironically, corporations. Okay. How they entrench themselves and the refusal to spread wealth and to pay better. And it's not just a Malaysian company per se, but also involves the international community overall. Yeah. But let's not get too far into the issue. This is an open offer to both of you and anybody from UKEC. You apply for an internship with me during your summer break. Yeah, we take in 1 month to 3 months, but you have to pass through Dashini, Bala, and also Seri, because they're gonna interview you guys first. Yeah, but there are many things. If there's a requirement, we will try to engage. You can invite me for 1-2 hour session, and I can answer questions on your behalf on issues that youths are worried about. But we do have to end the interview soon. But Dashini has the 4th question to ask all of you. Okay, Dashini, go ahead.
Yes. So I think this is kind of a summary of what we've talked about so far. So UKEC is continuously engaging Malaysian youth to try and get them back to Malaysia. And I just like to summarize, how do you think that this community, the Malaysian youth abroad, can be better supported to ensure that they find their way back to Malaysia and, ensure that they're happy back here? So, Syed, CJ, up to y'all. Who wants to go first?
Let's have Syed first. Okay.
Yeah. I'll try to wrap this one up in 1 minute. Obviously, there are the things that we do, the things that the Malaysian community here does. For example, the UKEC has our career fair. KPUM, which is the law student organization, has their internship programs. There are also initiatives that comes from the government itself. We have Talent Corp, we have the Perdana Fellow Alumni Association that tries to get Malaysian youth to work with, to intern with ministers. So those platforms exist. Those platforms, to me, the problem is that it's short term. Bringing them back, sure, they have the opportunity, but then once they're done, where do they go? Do they feel like life is better outside?
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is still a question of finding long-term solutions. How do we ensure that we can provide living wages to Malaysians who come back home? Another problem that exists, I know YB mentioned that 80% of it is 80 to 90% of it is with regards to with pay, but also we got to talk about this is very difficult to say, but we've got to talk about the problems that exist internally, a problem that exists systematically in Malaysia, with race, with religion. Because we have some of my friends who don't want to go back because they are dating interracially, and going back mean a lot of issues. So things like that. And so the problem to me is that youth organizations, the government can provide short-term solutions for now. But to truly overcome the issue, we need to talk about the long-term solutions.
Okay, yeah. So let me just quickly interject on that point, right?
Of course.
To me, we are a multiracial country, multi-religious. In my personal experience as an MP, there are capable MPs on all sides, government and the opposition. But we have a lot of MPs who are also making policy decisions based on personal interests, which means abuse of power and corruption. If we all sit together and sort this out, we understand social engineering is important. We understand that, we understand the basis of the Bumi Putra policy, but there must be a cut-off point, and that must be a point of target being met and moving on, right? It's just that the policies doesn't seem to move forward because there's a lot of vested personal interest, and then when there's a problem, they play the race card and they play the religious card, which is why it's complicated like that. Yeah, on that point. But let's move to CJ very quickly. CJ.
Yeah, I won't take up much of the time, but I completely agree with what Syed said. Anything we can do right now is a short-term solution, and there's no simple answer we can give that here is the long-term solutions A, B, C, D. That it doesn't work that way. And I think before I can properly answer that question, we should ask ourselves why Malaysian students are less inclined to go back home and work after they graduate. I'm a first-year student, and I haven't quite made up my mind regarding that matter, but from talking to seniors and my friends, I think the general consensus is Malaysia sort of has this open doormat that says welcome back to graduates, but we don't feel welcome because as I mentioned, in terms of self-expression, once you get exposed to this Western culture and form of expression, you would think that you are somewhat restricted in expression once you go home. A lot of art major students will have this kind of worry, okay, if I go home and I write this or I say this, am I going to get penalized for it, even though it's just my opinion? And we can explain to our overseas students that, we have talent court recruiting with Perdana Fellowship or internships with MNCs, but that's still not good of a reason to persuade them to go home in the long run. We need to give them a sense of belonging and purpose and acceptance, which is definitely easier said than done.
Okay, very good. And let me just quickly answer CJ. The sense of belonging, and this is personal to me, the sense of belonging comes from literature. It comes from the arts. If you're Malaysian, you should put an interest in trying to understand Malay literature or Malaysian literature, including, those Chinese writers like Tashaw and all those, right? Then you will get what it really means to be Malaysian. Yeah, you can read Shanun Ahmad, all this kind of. You must. It's so important. And if you can appreciate, the paintings of Ibn Hussein, all that kind of thing, also bonus, Latif Muhyiddin, right? So do that when you come back for your break. Come back and just immerse yourself in the Malaysian culture, Malaysian art scene. You should become more Malaysianized through the process. Try and pick up a Malaysian book, read it. Ranjau Sepanjang Jalan is essential reading. Yeah, those kind of things, right? Then let us all sort out the bigger issue. It's really still about pay, essentially. Believe me. The sense of belonging is, is problematic because of the race problems that we have and the multi-religious problems that we may have and different opinions. And the hot topic is coming in 5 minutes. We're a bit late now. Is going to talk about this problem. We got this bicycle lajak case, which isn't a race issue, but can become fast becoming potentially a racial problem. Yeah. So I'm sorry, guys, we are run out of time, but this has been a real pleasure. Do consider my internship and also do invite me if I'm free. If you organize something, I don't mind having a 1, 2, 3 hour session for open Q&A with all your members. I'm quite happy to do so. And you can just throw me 200 questions to answer. Yeah? Okay? Thank you so much, Sai. And thank you, CJ, for being here.
Thank you, YB, for the
YB,
opportunity.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, Dashini, can we move on now to the hot topic for the week?
Yep. All right.
Okay, joining me for hot topic is the rest of my crew. Serin's here, Bala is here, and Wen, our intern, is here. Okay, who wants to how should we handle this? This is a very sensitive question, obviously, right? Yeah. So maybe I should start by just saying what has happened in some sort of semi-chronological manner. Yeah. Okay, and then maybe you all can then ask some questions. I think today, let's not start today lah. Let's start that the accident, if I'm correct, happened in 2017.
Yes.
There was a trial in the magistrate court. In most trials regarding criminal trials, right? You have the first stage, and this is where Dashini, you're a law student, right? Or you studied law?
Yes, law graduate.
Yes. Okay. I used to be a lawyer, but I'm a corporate lawyer, so I'm not like a criminal lawyer expert. But this one is basic 101 when I studied at university law.
Yes, criminal procedure.
Yeah, criminal procedure. So first, the prosecution, the government, will create a case, right? And they will say what happened, and then it comes to the point where whether they have to establish a prima facie case, which means the judge at that point, before the defense starts, will say that is there a case to answer or not? Is there a crime here? So the magistrate at that particular point said no, right? Said there's no case to answer, that the accused Sam is not responsible or cannot be charged. But the government went to appeal against that. And the court then said that there is a case to answer. So it went back to the magistrate court and they had a trial. At that trial, Sam gave her testimony from the dog, which is unsworn. Now, this is a crucial thing a lot of people don't understand, but you must understand the chronology of this, right? And yet, she was acquitted at the end of her unsworn statement from the dog. Yeah. What has happened last week is that the Court of Appeal, the government then appealed, the Court of Appeal held that this unsworn statement became one of the crucial deciding factor in that the judge did not really fully believe her story and therefore found her guilty. And then there's two parts to this. One is to find her guilty and then say that she has to pay 6,000 ringgit and serve 6 years jail. Is it 6,000 or 10,000? I can't remember. I think it's around
6,000. The maximum is 10, but she was,
6,000 and 6 years jail. And then he went on to deny her a bail. That became an issue. Not a lot of people on social media talk about, how is it that that Najib has been found guilty for 1 MDB, but he's out there gallivanting and doing whatever he needs to do as Bosco. And whereas this lady has to go to jail and bail denied. So then they rushed that appeal today. And this morning, it was decided by a judge of 3 at the Court of Appeal that she's allowed bail, right? So the next step now, if I'm correct on this procedure, is that we will go to the Court of Appeal. Yeah.
Yes.
You had the magistrate, then the High Court, and then after the High Court, you go to the Court of Appeal. So the Court of Appeal will hear this, and that will be the final decision. But we have no idea when this will happen, but most likely within this year, I think so, because it's such a high-profile case. In a high-profile case, they will expedite this kind of issue. So that is the legal process. Yeah. Now, I only have very simple message. I'm not going to talk much about the legal process because what I can talk about is based on what I've read. I've read, reporting from many sources, including Malay newspapers, right? So there are different angles taken by each report, slightly different, of course. But broadly, what I just said just now is the essence of the trial process, right? But what is most interesting for me today is that Sam herself, through her lawyer, issued a statement. And that statement is very clear. She said, Les, this is not a race. This shouldn't turn into a race issue. She's appealing to all of you out there not to turn this into a race issue. Second thing is, she says she respects the judgment of the court. She herself, who is facing this trial, whether justice is served or not, she respects the court. And that is my position also, to be fair. And this is the position I took once the news broke out. And in my WhatsApp group, we have got lots of WhatsApp group. You can imagine, as a politician, I would have so many WhatsApp group. But there is one WhatsApp group with the OCPD, which is core community in OCPD. So and they discuss this issue. And to me, it's very simple. I wrote a reply, quite a lengthy reply to most of them, stating the fact that we should let the court decide. Because I used to be a lawyer, even though corporate lawyer. We must, whether we believe justice is done or not, we must give the benefit of the doubt that justice is being served. Okay? And let the process take on. What was unfair is that she was denied bail, but that's been corrected since then. Okay? Now, I don't know, some of you have dropped off. So let's start the question and answer session now. Yeah, I see Bala and Dashi. Bala, you want to ask the first question? Oh, Serene's coming back, and Wen is coming back too. Okay. Who wants to start first? Anybody?
I can ask the first question, boss.
Okay.
So we have, as you rightly pointed out, that there is a lot of chatter about this case online, even offline actually. But how do we navigate this court of public opinion? There is a clear divide within the community that some are blaming the parents, some are blaming the lady, some are blaming the kids themselves. Some are even going as far as, the education system has failed, hence the kids have gone to this as an option. So how do we navigate through this, and what would be your response?
My take okay, so first thing is, of course, everybody's entitled to their views, right? But don't racialize the thing. That's the first thing. I think it's okay to say that the parents have to be better, have to know where their kids are, right? But when I read a Berita Harian article many days ago, 3 or 4 days ago, they were reacting to the judgment. But I'm not interested in their immediate reaction to the judgment. There was a story about this particular woman that said that the son died. That the son was a good boy, that she sell kueh, the son got up in the morning.
I remember he followed her, the 15-year-old one, I think, right, boss?
That's right. Yeah. The boy was a good boy. I mean, for all instances, good boy. Help her sell kueh, right? And got killed that night. So I think it's a little bit too easy for us to pass judgment and say, these kids all did wrong, and they were gangsters or whatever you want to call it, right? Because when I was a member of parliament in Kelana Jaya, we have a lot of poor areas. Options are very limited for poor people, right? So either they join gangsterism or they pursue some hobby. And whether you like it or not, bicycle lajak, in a strange way, is a type of hobby. Yeah. Of course, now we know that it's very dangerous. Of course, it should be banned. But at that time, before this accident, I think some people will even say that this is a good thing that the kids are not smoking and taking drugs and doing gangsterism, that they're doing something, working on their bike and doing something like that, right? So I would highly recommend most people not to reserve judgment a bit and not be too judgmental, and try to understand that to some of these families, it's these kids didn't. I mean, nowhere in hell, even if you take drugs and you die of an overdose, you don't deserve to die. There's no such thing as deserving to die. Yeah. The question now is, putting Sam in jail if she's responsible. What is justice? It is not going to bring back the lives of the kids. I'm sure she's in deep remorse as well, right? But some semblance of justice and closure is required from all sides, for her, for the family. So if we're not in court, we're not the judge, we're not the lawyers arguing this, try to understand the context of this. That this is a really emotional, personal thing, and not to blow it up into something else. That's my general advice, lah. Yeah, to try to see both sides, lah. Okay. Anyone has another question? When, Serene, Dashini yourself? Dashini is a lawyer. She can join in and try to. I mean, I practice. I studied criminal law. I practiced a year and for criminal law.
Oh, okay.
Because in Kota Baru, you have to do everything, right? I handled 2 criminal cases. So, but that was like 1992 or 93, so long ago. Yeah, Serene, do you have a question, Serene?
Not really. It's just more of an observation, lah. That ever
Yeah,
since
please share your views. Yeah.
I mean, I was just amazed at how this is a tragic accident, involved a lot of 8 lives tragically lost. But then it's just how amazing that this has been racialized so much, Chinese versus Malay, and then the treatment as compared to I'm not sure if you heard about the case about Down syndrome kid. I think her name was Bella, being mistreated in a welfare home, and then there's a comparison being made as to how the person who mistreated her, her punishment, for lack of a better word, compared to what Sam is facing through now. So it's just I was just thinking in my head about that kind of difference and how people can compare it because the color of your skin and your religion. But that's just a reflection I was having. That's all. Not really a question, but yeah.
Well, I'm not very familiar with the Bella case. I read a little bit about it, but I will reserve
heard about
comment
it on the
that.
radio, but yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, can you just explain to me what happens in the Bella case? Any of you, Bala, are you familiar?
Dashini, we heard it on the radio, so
yeah, maybe I can go. So the case is still the trial is still going on at the moment. Unfortunately, it's a very disturbing, sad case of a young girl, disabled girl, who was abused in her home, the welfare home that she was being taken care in, and she suffered a lot of abuse. And currently, the case is still ongoing. So again, we have to reserve judgment when it comes to the person's guilt. But a lot of people were drawing comparisons with the fact that Sam was being arrested and she was in cuffs when she was being brought around, because again there was a judgment that was passed, there was a verdict that was passed. But in the case of this Malay lady who was in charge of the home which this girl was abused in or allegedly abused in, she wasn't yet, because again the verdict hadn't passed. But social media immediately, people took to social media saying, how come she is not being cuffed, how come this person is.
I mean, they were conflating the issue in Najib as well, right? In the bail issue. I mean, I think people need to stop that. And overall, I think politicians overall have a role to play. Offering legal services to Sam may not be the smartest thing to do at the moment, because you will inflame the issue, right? I mean, her lawyer is competent enough to get her off in the first and second. 2 acquittals at the magistrate level, right? And then either famous lawyers trying to offer free service. I mean, please lah. I mean, do they do it for publicity or what? I'm not sure. People do for a lot of things, right? But when political parties come into the picture as well, how can it not be politicized, right? Maybe people should think carefully first, and try to take, this is the right thing is to let the court process go. If the court process seems illogical at some point, wait for the judgment to come out, and the judgment is out. I've not seen the actual full judgment. There are snippets of the judgment being reported, and it seems on paper now that the High Court judge was wrong, on points of law, right? So let the Court of Appeal deal with that, and then we revisit. But the most important thing is that at least she's out on bail, right? But how do you get closure for the family members who 8 children have died? That's another thing we have to consider. Okay, Wen, do you have a question to ask? Wen, anything?
I don't really have a question, but I have also observed from the case that there was immediate public backlash when she was found guilty, because I think in a few days there were over 800,000 people who signed a petition, and then there was in Chinese Facebook news that in the comments there were copy pasta that states that they are very doubtful of the judicial system of our country. So I think that's a unique phenomenon that occurred from this case too.
Okay, yeah. So putting the case aside, the fact that so many people signed this petition is a worrying thing. It is, yeah. After so many years of independence, are we still so divided on issues like this? I'm not sure. So we do need to go back and try to talk sense to everybody and see what's really going on. Of course, it's very emotional, but you're not in the court. You didn't see the facts. The magistrate was there. She acquitted it. So people look at this kind of key points and try to understand it. To me, I think this kind of phenomenon or this kind of reaction means that we have some ways to go to find national unity. Yeah, but again, this is not just a Malaysian problem. I think it's globally it's becoming more increasingly difficult. So then, where do we find enough people in the middle to try and diffuse things and calm things down? I think that's what we try to do, at least, right? So that's my view. I know some of you may not like it. Some people will. But my position is very clear. Get the courts involved. Try to refrain from too critical comments. Try to see the other side as well. Yeah. And try to understand that this is an accident. An accident by nature means it's not by intention. Yeah. Some people might say it's fated, that kind of thing. Then let the process run. But the government has to be very careful, and the judges too have to be very careful. Have very concise, precise explanation for your judgment. Yeah. Otherwise, you will polarize the thing further, and you might end up, creating bigger problems than we should have. Okay. Anybody want to have any last observation and comment on this thing before we open up the last 7 minutes to question and answer?
Yeah, maybe I think it has to do with this question as well, and it's the fear that a lot of people can end up in this situation. So maybe we can transfer
Okay, Tan. Okay, Tan is asking. But Tan, there is a. I mean, it sounds a bit stupid, but actually there is solutions. I mean, some of us are very worried of this kind of thing happening, right? So one is the police must improve their actions on these particular people, basically lajak people, right? They have to go down on the ground. They also have to find the parents, in my view, yeah, if they're negligent on that fact that their child has a bicycle lajak. Also, those shops that do this kind of thing must stop. Yeah, okay, that's the bare minimum. But for yourself, get a dash cam. And that's a practical thing. Yeah, if you can afford it, you can buy a dash cam for about 150. The high end one is like 350, because I'm considering the same also. Yeah, get a dash cam is useful, but I'm not trying to encourage a million people go and get dash cam, but if you feel very strongly about it, and you then to reassure yourself, get a dash cam. Yeah, okay. What is it? Anyone driving at the point of time? Actually, I spoke to a senior lawyer about this issue. This case, in fact, will have implications on car insurance also in the future. So I can't say beyond that. Let's see what the judgment comes up, because there's a parallel case going on in the federal court, which may have implication on responsibility, negligence, and payout or compensation for car accidents in the future. Yeah. Okay. Next question.
So this is also on the same issue, and I think the first sentence is the most poignant. All involved are victims, right? So we had Miss Sam losing years of her life. We have the children losing their life entirely and families mourning. So I think what this question summarizes what you said, boss, is that the blame is on the authority, and perhaps we will have to see again what the courts itself are deciding moving forward.
No,
So
absolutely. Yeah, she's right. The authority has to take the bulk of the blame. The authority's failure to give, underprivileged students a better chance, better access to do things, other sports. I mean, you can boil down to it. It's never ending, right? Better enforcement, pay their parents better so they get more time to spend their children instead of doing 2 jobs, right? Never being at home. Shahrul, I remember as a member of Parliament for Kelana Jaya, because I have a lot of poor people in my area back then. There's Seria, there's Mentari. You cannot imagine. Yeah, and some of my early interns used to have to spend one night there and then observe how poor people live. It's very stressful. They're already doing 2 jobs. How can you think they can monitor their kids who have no prospect? Yeah, who have undernourished food, who cannot afford clean new clothes, and their little thing is that basikal lajak. That's their pride and joy. If you don't contextualize this properly, you're missing the point. Yeah. So, but Shahrul, you're right on point. There's no issue about that. The authorities have to take on a lot of blame. But now that the case has started, the authorities have to finish that case and to put the judgment as clear-cut as possible. Yeah. So that there's no more issues, hopefully, after the judgment on the Court of Appeal stage. So, we have to appreciate all the families and everybody, both the Sam and the victims. Yeah. Okay. Is there more questions on this? Or opinions?
I don't think we have any more regarding the basikal lajak case, boss. So they're just other questions about education. We have one about the Malaysian education system, also from Sharul Akmar, if you'd like to take it.
Okay, Ken. Education committee. I'm not sure who sits in the education committee now. I'm not sitting in that. I'm doing economics. But Malaysian education, PKR's position on Malaysian education system is quite straightforward. It has to, it has a few issues. One is to make sure that the quality is better. That's easy to say, but changing the curriculum where you can have, giving support to the teaching itself is important. So first thing is the hardware, what we call hardware, and then the software. Software is a curriculum. Let's do the hardware first. The first thing about hardware is the schools has to be in a good shape. Toilets have to be clean. Fire alarm system has to work. The teaching staff must have enough paper. I mean, this is crazy. Malaysian government school, right? Parents have to supply paper to the school, right? Then one teacher or for every 3 teachers, 1 teaching assistant to help them so that they can do their job properly. Now there is 10 teachers and 1 teaching assistant. How does this happen? I also don't know. Classrooms are too big. 40 students, 35. The international rate is 25 to maximum 30. So we need more schools. We need more school teachers. That's the hardware part. Yeah. So if we can achieve that, that's the low-hanging fruit, Shahrul, believe it or not. The hard part is the curriculum. Do we move to an international baccalaureate system, IB, where you teach multiple subjects, right? Do we stop streaming kids early on into science or humanities, right? Do we have guiding counselors, guidance counselors to teach them things that they can do other things, they can have other prospects, talk to them what they're real interested in. Are we focusing more on creativity, poetry, drama, plays, painting? So important in this modern world. If you don't have that creative side, we're not here to produce drones. And then you got to ask that fundamental question in curriculum. Yeah, are you learning, facts and regurgitating data when the whole world has a thing called Google? There's no point. Or are you learning to solve problems? Are you asking questions? or are you regurgitating data? I mean, broadly, Shahrul, we don't have a lot of time to talk about Malaysian education system, but PKR is leaning towards that. The hardware part, repair everything, make sure teachers can teach well with all the facilities, including like sports equipment, those kind of thing. Then the software part, tricky curriculum. That would take, because you know it's tricky. I mean, you can write one thing and you can just say do that, but you got to have to train the teachers. Some teachers been around 30 years, 20 years, 10 years. You got to train the teachers, fix the curriculum, and then get them to teach the new curriculum. Yeah, needs a lot of work. Okay, any more questions out there? I wanted to end this a bit earlier, but you know, Kenneth is asking why am I not contesting?
This can be your boss.
Okay, I'll take this as the last question, Kenneth.
Mhm.
It's very simple. I'm already the member of parliament, right? As the member of parliament, I also sit in a lot of committees in the party, right? I don't stand for the cabang election. Many MPs are also ketua cabang, but I've decided early on not to stand in cabang election, because cabang election should be those guys who are on the ground, more local, right? So I would like to take that, not to go into that space and try to dominate also, but to use that as an opportunity for the younger and different members to rise up to the top. So that's how you seek talents. Then they can become councillor, they can become adun, and hopefully one day become an MP as well. Yeah. So at the cabang level, don't contest. I contested the last time to join the central committee. I lost narrowly. Yeah. But this time I haven't decided whether I should run in the central committee again. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. But the central committee election is only starting in May, after the first round election. Yeah. So kind of definitely not cabang, but maybe later at the MPP, because I never contested in cabang ever in PKR. Yeah. Because I always look at the cabang as a political ally in what I do, but also as a ground to train the younger up and coming better future politicians. Okay, I hope that answers your question. And we are already at 9:33. We do have to end this. Yeah. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope you take my words. I mean, if you don't agree, it's fine. Yeah. But please do not inflame the issues further. Yeah. That's my only advice to all. Okay. On that note, thank you. We'll be back next week again. And next week, I think, what are we planning to do, Dashini? Next week?
We're having youth speakers again, but this time from IU Malaysia. Not IU Malaysia.
Okay,
Yeah.
So IU
we're gonna
Malaysia, IU Malaysia.
Yep, correct. The
Okay.
candidates for AMK. So
okay,
we'll
have they said yes? Have you contacted them?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, yes. They're
We're hoping to have them next week.
Okay.
Next week. We're still in the process of discussing with them.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, everybody, and good night, and have a great week ahead. Sorry. Okay, bye.